With one punch, he sent Sasuke flying into the forest. Itachi looked back to Naruto's position only to find no one there. Once again, Itachi sighed but figured his team would come after him again soon. Sasuke was rubbing his cheek where he had been punched, surrounded by Naruto and Yakumo. Naruto took the opportunity of Sasuke being silent to speak. "Listen, none of us are a match for Itachi, but together we may be a slight challenge. Here's what we are going to do. I will go out and challenge Itachi, and while we fight, Yakumo will cast a genjutsu." Naruto was interrupted before he could say more by Yakumo of all people. Naruto, I'm nowhere near Itachi's level of genjutsu. Anything I try and cast would be dispelled by him before it take effect," she said. Naruto shook his head. Normally that would be true, but he won't be paying enough attention to know when the genjutsu starts, and by the time it does, it will be too late. Make a genjutsu that will keep him still. When he dispels the genjutsu, I will be there to hold him in place. That is when you, Sasuke, will come from the forest to force him to surrender by putting a kunai to his neck. Itachi gives up, we win, and it's over. Got it? He asked, getting confident nods from his teammates. Naruto smirked. Maybe this team could actually work. Itachi was standing and waiting for his next opponent when he heard footsteps behind him. Turning around, he was met with the sight of Naruto walking towards him. Itachi immediately prepared himself, knowing that this was perhaps the only genin that could require most of his attention. "I see you came alone. Are you looking to finish what was started last time?" Itachi said with a smirk. Naruto rolled his neck with a pop sound as a result. Without a word, Naruto dashed forward with the speed of at least Haichuan, aiming to punch Itachi in the face. Itachi jumped back, but Naruto unexpectedly flipped after missing and brought his foot down on Itachi's shoulder, knocking him back. As Itachi was knocked back, he could already feel the bruise forming on his shoulder. Itachi knew that Naruto was skilled with taijutsu, so he started to think around it. He could fight Naruto with his sword, but something told him that his chances of death were higher than not. He could fight him with taijutsu. But there would be some explaining to do if he showed up in the Hokage's office later with multiple bruises, even if he wasn't trying. So that left him with ninjutsu. He had only seen Naruto use the shadow clone jutsu, so it might be best to make this into a ninjutsu battle. Itachi quickly did the signs and quietly said "Great Fireball Jutsu," launching a very large fireball at his student. Naruto clenched his teeth but knew this was the risk of trying to make Itachi resort to using ninjutsu only. Naruto stretched his arm, and as it did the night before, his massive sword appeared in his hand. Deciding to show Itachi something he hadn't shown him previously, he pushed chakra into and around his sword. Raising his arm, he swiped down, powerful enough to push his blade into the ground towards the incoming fireball. A chakra wave formed from his sword and flew, splitting the fireball. But the wave continued and was now nearing Itachi. Itachi was able to jump away at the last second but watch the result of the wave. Once the wave hit the trees, it was as if hundreds of sword slashes were attacking the trees at once. Before Itachi could overcome his shock, he felt something grabbing him. Looking down, he was surprised to see many thick vines overcoming him and holding him. Just as it was about to completely overcome him, he sensed that it was a genjutsu and dispelled it. Once he did, he was met with the sight of his brother holding a kunai to his throat, daring him to move. Itachi smirked and simply said, "I surrender." Sasuke removed his kunai, Yakumo came out of her hiding space, and Naruto joined the team from his spot. Itachi spent the next 2 minutes examining his team and analyzing their strategy. It was a very sound plan with even better execution. He could tell already that this team would go far. Though his brother had been a bit disappointing, he was still involved in the outcome and would only get better. Yakumo's timing and strength of her genjutsu were practically flawless, and Naruto's ability to make Itachi lose focus of his teammates was very inspiring. Yes, this team would go far. We're done for today. Go home and rest. We meet tomorrow at 6 in the morning, and don't be late, he said with a small smile, leaving to go to the Hokage's office. Had he turned around, he would have seen the sight of his 3 genin wide-eyed and open-mouthed. After Itachi had left, the 3 simultaneously shouted 6. After the shock of training time wore off, Sasuke and Naruto started to go their separate ways before being stopped by a quiet voice saying, "Wait." The two turned around to see Yakumo rubbing her arm. I was hoping that we could all go out and get something to eat and get to know each other since we are on a team together, she said expectantly and hoping they said yes. Sasuke shook his head. I have to go train and get stronger. Maybe you should as well instead of worrying about socializing, he said before leaving. Yakumo quickly developed a disappointed and hurt look before looking at Naruto. Naruto was quiet for a moment before nodding. That sounds good. I noticed a restaurant on the way here. Yakiniku-kyu, I believe it was called, he responded. Yakumo smiled and nodded. The two took off to Yakiniku-kyu while their ever-polite teammate returned home to train. All Jounin senseis were gathered in the Hokage's office waiting to give their reports. Minato entered the office and sat at his desk followed by the current elders of the village, Jiraiya and Tsunade. Okay, so the team tests were today. Please give me the results, everyone, he said as each Jounin stepped forward to give their report on their team. Team 1 fail, Team 2 fail, Team 3 fail, Team 4 fail, Team 5 fail, Team 6 fail. Kakashi stepped forward. Team 7 pass. Menma and Narumi performed well except for that they were easily goaded into a fight and too often let their emotions cloud their decision-making. The Hiruno girl is a bit of a problem as well, but I believe that we can train her and make her useful, finished Kakashi with Kushina nodding behind him. Minato sighed. He knew that his children would pass, but they did let their emotions override their judgment, a trait they undoubtedly got from their mother. The Sannin behind him chuckled, as did a few Jounin. Minato nodded and motioned to Kurenai. Kurenai stepped forward to report. Team 8 pass. Hinata has potential and gentle fist but too hesitant, whereas Kibla is too impulsive, but Shino is very intellectual and was able to get his teammates to follow his plan of draining me of my chakra. Then Kibla and Hinata alternated in their clan styles. Against me, she said. Asuma took a puff of his cigarette before being elbowed in the gut by Kurenai. Team 10 pass. Aino commanded Shikamaru and Chaji to get me in place for her to use her mind transfer jutsu to beat me, he finished and then stepped back. Minato didn't know what to expect when Itachi stepped forward. He hoped the team passed for the sake of his son, as did Kushina, who was nervously looking at Itachi. The Jounin in the room, however, were sure that the team assigned to Itachi Uchiha had failed, despite his brother being on the team. Team 11 pass, he said, causing whispers to start among the other Jounin. Minato quickly got tired of the whispers and said loudly, quiet, before motioning to Itachi to continue. Itachi took a deep breath. What I say may not be easy to understand, but please let me finish before questions are asked, he said, getting a nod in response from Minato. Team 11 has greater potential than that of the Sannin, he said, which immediately gathered shots from the other Jounin, narrowed eyes from the Sannin, and wide-eyed responses from Minato and Kushina. This time Minato had to shut quiet to get everyone to settle down. Please continue, Itachi, he said. Itachi simply nodded. Before I explain what happened for me to come to this realization, I will tell you of my students. Sasuke is strong for a genin but needs training and perhaps a new mindset. Yakumo is a genjutsu prodigy with potential surpassing that of my own in the field, he said, getting wide-eyed shocked responses from every Jounin in the room, but none as shocked as Kurenai. Minato was shocked at how much praise Itachi was giving before realizing he had not heard about his own son yet. And Naruto, he asked, getting the attention of everyone in the room, especially the Sannin, who wanted to know how strong the boy was. The boy who they were supposed to have a relationship with but instead never even acknowledged him. Itachi sighed for what seemed like the 100th time today. Naruto is the strongest genin and perhaps the strongest chunin in Konoha, he said, getting the most shocked reactions that he had gotten all day. And that is just during the day. At night, I'm unsure exactly how strong he is, but his power is immense. Perhaps as strong as I am with my Sharingan activated, he finished, expecting the questions to flood like water breaking a dam. Minato spoke first. How do you know he is strong at night, Itachi? He asked curiously. Itachi looked at the Hokage, ignoring everyone who were still trying to fathom what he was saying. After the graduation exam, I tailed him. It was relatively late and he sensed me. We had a short conversation before he challenged me and summoned a giant sword almost as tall as him and just as wide as his body. Before he attacked, he made a suspicious comment about how beautiful the moon looked and then attacked. We fought and it ended with me finding out that I was fighting a clone the whole time. But more surprising, he was toying with me while using his sword. I launched a fireball at him and he simply cut through it. He is very strong during the day, especially with that sword of his, but at night, he's almost unstoppable, Itachi reminisced. Kushina spoke next. You keep saying he has a sword, but I've never seen him with it. Also, how good is he? Is there any room for improvement? She asked, hoping for another way to bond with her son as she was a sword master herself. Itachi chuckled, which soon turned into a full-blown laugh, leaving a few wondering if he had gone off the deep end. I don't know how, but he just holds his arm out and the sword appears into existence. And as for needing improvement, I think he's perfectly fine in the area of swordsmanship. Minato then decided to wrap everything up. How did your team pass Itachi? He asked, getting back to the point. Itachi nodded. Naruto kept me focused on him, and when I used my giant fireball, but he summoned his sword and cut it in half, but a chakra wave from the sword kept going, barely missing me. The chakra wave hit a tree, and when it hit, it was like hundreds of strikes at once. While I was focused on Naruto's attack, Yakumo was able to cast a genjutsu in which vines attempted to smother me. When I dispelled it, Sasuke had his kunai to my throat, so I surrendered. They work well together and are powerful in their own right, he finished. Minato took a deep breath before thanking everyone and letting them leave. Kushina, Kakashi, Jiraiya, and Tsunade stayed behind. What do you all think? Minato asked. Everyone was silent before Tsunade spoke. We fucked up. Left parenthesis.
Yakiniku.
Naruto and Yakumo sat next to each other enjoying their meal. Yakumo then turned to Naruto. So you left the village and learned how to use that sword I saw? Yakumo asked for the third time since arriving at the restaurant. Naruto simply nodded. What was it like outside of Konoha? She asked. Naruto swallowed the food in his mouth before responding. Well, I mostly stayed in the forest, but it was nice. Naruto then asked a question that had been slightly bugging him. I'm curious why you didn't invite any of your friends. I'm not the most fun person to hang out with. Yakumo's smile turned into a sad frown and she looked down. Naruto gave her time before she responded. I don't have any friends. When I was younger, there was something wrong with me. My personality had split to form a creature called Ito. I'm fine now, but everyone still walks on eggshells around me, even my own family, she said, and tears began to fall. Suddenly, something unexpected happened. A hand grabbed and held hers. She looked up to see Naruto looking at her with genuine worry and care. It made her heart flutter. After staring into Yakumo's eyes, Naruto spoke. You don't have to worry about that anymore. The past is the past, and if no one wants to hang out with you now, then cuck 'em. If people call you weak, destroy them. If no one believes in you, make them believe in you. And always remember, if you feel alone, you've always got me, he said with a smile. Yakumo teared up and hugged him tight. She felt at peace when she felt him hug back.